What's up guys, welcome to AnimeKouhai. If you want to help me out, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel.
Administrative matters were handled entirely by Rigurd, while in terms of the military, Benimaru was acting on my behalf and held full control over it. We were currently recruiting talents to serve as their aides. Rigurd was learning about the separation of powers, whereas the former goblins chiefs, Rugurd, Rigurd and Rogurd were acting as the head of the judicial, legislative and executive branches, respectively. Nevertheless, there was a slight problem here: separation of powers could not be maintained without some kind of oversight. Similar to Japan's parliamentary cabinet system, the boundary between the legislative and executive was blurred. It was difficult foreseeing what correct measures I had to take in order to improve this problem. Anyway, we began setting up the legislative branch. Regarding that, our nation settled on creating a Senate and a House of Representatives. Senators from the Senate would be appointed by me, while the representatives from the House of Representatives would be elected through public elections. The senators would not change. They would be allowed to continue serving forever unless they fell from grace by getting in any kind of trouble. On the other hand, the representatives from the House of Representatives would be elected by the public. Holding an election wouldn't be easy. It was going to require a lot of trial and error. The legislative branch would only be in charge of drafting laws. Then, the executive branch would be in charge of carrying out the charted laws and see to it that the nation operated accordingly. I wanted to have someone talented in order to solidify our executive branch. Using the Japanese bureaucracy as an example, even with the prime ministers constantly changing over and over, the nation still functioned very solidly. Although there have been more and more problems in recent years, anyhow, we must be practical and push forward our policies gradually. We needed someone who possessed tenacity and diligence so that they wouldn't give up so easily during the execution of our laws. However, long-term plans tended to waste unnecessary resources, and perhaps officials might be bribed to do bad things, so I wanted to prevent this kind of thing from happening by closely monitoring them. As for the first wave of officials to take office in the executive branch, I intended to select them from the pool of goblin tribe chiefs in Tempest Federation. The elders, on the other hand, were to be elected by proxy. In this regard, I believed it would eventually turn into a meritocracy. We were still in the process of reconciling the stakes and rivalries of each tribe, but I hoped that in the future, we would be able to unite together as one. Although it would also take time for us to do so, I wanted our nation to pursue a policy of peaceful reconciliation. Leaving that aside, there was a problem here. Those who were good at governmental duties tended to be mostly weaker races, whereas those who were at the top of the militant races were not good with the paperwork. This was a troubling issue. Should we focus on the strength within the monster world, or focus on the coexistence with humanity, knowledge and coordination? It was quite the conundrum. No matter how strong some people were, I wasn't going to tolerate criminals. This was already well known to us. In addition, the military honestly had bragging rights to the sheer power they possessed. However, that didn't mean they could interfere with the country's operating policy. Depending on the future policies, I was afraid that it might cause discontentment. Legislation, at its core, was gathering the opinions of the people, drafting them into law, and having it approved by the executive. However, at the executive level, even the weak could control power by using their wits, and the strong could be deprived of their rights. Wouldn't some people have a problem with that? This was to be expected at this stage. After all, the executive played an important role. The executive branch had the responsibility of managing the national budget, and the vast amount of wealth amassed in the Tempest Federation would be put to use by public officials. Muirmiles was our top financial functionary, but he alone could not uncover every single case of corruption and fraud. Moreover, the division of territories also fell under executive control. I expected that appointments would be made to develop regions at the appropriate time, but that plan might also become a point of contention. To prevent this from happening, all decrees would be issued in my name. Finally, there was the judicial branch. The most important work of the judicial branch was to try people who had been arrested and charged with a crime. Police power was vested in the executive branch, yet, the power of arrest was not limited to only the executive, but also to the legislative and judicial branches. The purpose was, of course, mutual oversight. The judiciary was responsible for sanctioning persons that were under arrest. It was the judicial branch that required the highest regard for impartiality, and to protect the order of law without being swayed by the opinions of the people. Relying on the law to punish without mercy, that was surprisingly difficult. I was also troubled by the question of how to guarantee a fair and just trial. In any case, in order to implement the separation of powers once and for all, I was learning alongside Rigurd. The people's voices must be heard, and legislation must be discussed and enacted together. It was essential to establish a transparent political system. In terms of administration, Rigurd and other talented people were currently being selected as officials and were training to become bureaucrats. In order to strengthen the authority of the central government, it was necessary to create a law enforcement agency as soon as possible. The military, under Benimaru's direct control, and the intelligence agency, Dark Shadow, led by Soe, would answer only to my commands. In order to prevent chaos in the chain of command, it was decided that they would not listen to any orders from the executive branch. Therefore, I was planning to appoint someone quite powerful as the head of the public prosecutor's office. There was another thing. The judiciary also had problems. Conducting trials could easily stoke violence and resentment on all sides. This demanded not only smarts, but a certain amount of adroitness to get the job done. Of course, judges needed protection, but that thought alone was disturbing. Purposefully attacking a judge for the sake of revenge was absolutely intolerable, and was grounds for an immediate death sentence. However, we couldn't rule out the possibility of someone being aware of the consequences and still committing a crime like that. Unlike humans, monsters were tough. No matter how discreet the security was, officials were susceptible to ambushes. That was why we wanted our judge to have some personal physical strength.
In that case, relying on Rigurd alone is rather concerning,
I admitted. Rigurd agreed with my view.
Right. Even though he is my close lieutenant, he's not as strong as a centurion. If we switched to Rigurd, however, he wouldn't lose to any average youngsters.
Rigurd had a deep and ruthless side, but could deliver an honest verdict. Good for a judge, but not powerful enough to protect himself when things went wrong. Rigurd was a strong man, and can take on 1,000 captains one-on-one. However, he was spearheading all the ministries and departments in the executive branch in place of Rigurd, and therefore it would be difficult for him to transfer over to the judicial branch. I pondered for a bit.
I would like to set up a prosecutor's office within the executive branch. If it's a domestic crime, Datta and the security force will be able to stop it. But when it comes to cracking down on executives and lawmakers, it's too much of a burden for those guys, isn't it?
Indeed, you're right. All sorts of monsters, even named Majins, may come to our nation. In addition, people confident of their own strength from various countries will also gather here due to the influence of the opening ceremony. It's not surprising that there's going to be a lot of commotion.
While most of the effects of the founding festival were positive, due to a certain event that occurred, it's also begun to attract strong characters. In a way, it was what we wanted, but some fools simply couldn't be satisfied by the labyrinth. They had to go to town and make a mess. With Datta's return, the security force had been strengthened significantly, but Rigurd didn't think that was enough.
There are still ranked Majins, aren't there?
I asked.
Yes, although the numbers are small. They haven't shown any outward signs for wanting to rampage, but I thought it would be prudent to stay vigilant.
Just like Rigurd said, preparedness was very important. There was a huge difference in the fighting abilities between each individual, so it was smarter to be proactive rather than reactive when dealing with Majins.
The public prosecutor's office and the judicial branch. There's also the matter of sending someone to be our diplomat in the Western Council. At the moment, we all have our own jobs to do, so it doesn't seem like a good idea to make any personnel changes.
It would be more confusing.
That was going to be a headache. The system was being established, the laws were beginning to be enacted, but the necessary resources for actually executing them was still in its infancy. There were many vacant positions that needed to be filled. That was the downside of rapid growth, and it was something we could not avoid. I could only sigh at our lack of manpower. It was no use ruminating over not having enough personnel. I decided to lighten my mood by inspecting the construction sites. Geld was building a new capital on the ruins of Beast Kingdom Eurazania. The construction was going smoothly and the foundation work had been laid out. We laid the foundation all the way down to bedrock, and magical high-strength concrete foundations connected by steel and rebar proved to be an excellent base. By using stones with mana as the building material, not only were they sturdy, they would give off an unique magic wavelength that repelled low-level spells. The downside was that we could not use magic to reduce its weight during transportation, but the positives outshined that, so I suppose it was good enough. By the time this giant castle was completed, not only would it be capable of defending against an outside attack, it would also block magic being used inside as well. We were even able to create magic rocks that were several hundred times harder than concrete. After polishing it, a towering pillar rose from the center, supported by the foundation, and seemed to almost reach the sky. Using the pillar as support, the outer walls were being erected next. I should mention that the scale of this project was simply enormous. The pillar alone was a spectacle. Below, people were bustling around like busy ants. It was certainly a strange sight to behold, but it was also evidence of just how massive the building was.
Ah, it's Rimuru-sama. We welcome your presence.
Geld greeted as he happily ran up to me. Not wanting to bother everyone working, I came here using teleport from my spatial domination, but it appeared that I was discovered by Geld in the end.
Hey, Geld, long time no see. It's great seeing you guys progressing so smoothly.
Thanks a lot. Surely everyone will be delighted to hear Rimuru-sama's praise.
Geld gave off a bright laughter, which brightened me up as well. He wouldn't be reacting this way had the operation not gone smoothly. The cheerful atmosphere at the site was what made the work enjoyable.
No, I really mean it. You guys seem to be doing a lot better than I anticipated. Will you guys be finishing soon?
Indeed. It is thanks to everyone getting along so well.
According to Geld, he thought a lot by himself after his talk with me. He then went on to have open conversations with the captives Majins, lending his ears to their complaints. There was no way that he could move the hearts of those who were completely unmotivated to work. With that being said, Geld did not rely on strength to rule, but by understanding others' viewpoints.
They were all afraid for their future circumstances. They were scared that they would be executed due to their past conflict with Rimuru-sama.
Explained Geld.
Huh? Why would I do something like that?
Of course you wouldn't. We all know that Rimuru-sama is not a ruthless demon lord, but these people are new around here. They do not know Rimuru-sama's character, and consequently, they couldn't completely shake off the feeling of fear. That's why I decided to share my own experience to them.
Geld retold the story of the duel between the Orc Lord and me, the outcome, and the fate of the orcs. The Majins were only half convinced, despite the large group of high orcs right in front of them. Those that were involved backed up Geld's testimony, and as a result, few people doubted his story.
Some of them were calling Rimuru-sama naive, but I replied with, "So what?" I asked them, "Are you really going to try and rebel when even I can't win against him?" That shut everyone up.
That's it for this video, guys. Thank you for always watching my videos and supporting my channel.
What's up, guys? Please be informed that this channel is no longer eligible for YouTube monetization, and it's only trying to depend on your support for its continued existence. It's been a while since it was demonetized, and lacking financial support, it seems that the channel is nearing its end. As a last resort, the creator decided to call your attention to the fact that the channel does need your help, and that the creator is most likely to disappear when left alone. And this is why Tensura Volume 11 videos have been set on private. Guys, this is not being cruel. She is just trying to preserve the provision of the entertainment in the community. Tensura Volume 11 contains 54 videos and is now made exclusively available to AnimeKouhai patrons. If you'd like to help her out, you may want to join the membership. And as a reward, you'll be able to watch those 54 episodes, from episode 169 to episode 222, and the rest of the latest episodes as well. Feel free to check her out on Patreon. The link is in the description below.